All right, welcome back to another episode of Pewology. This is a show where the people in the pews get to weigh in. We talk real conversations. We don't censor the conversations. They're real conversations. Sometimes they're spiritual nature. Sometimes they're emotional nature, relational.
Sam nature.
They're Sam natured. Help me, Jesus. Okay, I got a good one for you today. This is interesting, and it's interesting that we have you two, and I think you'll understand why. So this is one of those where we've already had a guy panel discuss this. Okay. And now you're the girl panel discussing the same topic to see the difference in worldview. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with, let's start with, I'm going to ask you guys basically the same thing that I was asking them, but in reverse. Okay. So
I think we're doomed to fail.
if your partner came to, if your husband came to you and said, and I know this is, it's tempting to be comical, right? But I want you to take it as if it happened, like it's serious. Okay. If your husband came to you and said, I don't know how to tell you this, but I heard from the Lord, and he told me that we have to go do this, and it meant uprooting your whole life. Like whether it was mission work or starting a church or being an evangelist or whatever it is, something literally that was so foreign to everything you've known up until this point, right? It was like, listen, I don't know what to tell you, but the Lord told me, like literally told me we have to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think your response would be?
Let's go.
What?
Absolutely.
Really?
No doubt.
No doubt?
No doubt.
You didn't, no pause? Just
Nope.
sell the business and
Let's
walk away?
go.
Like the home, the business, take the kids out of school.
Bye.
And you're out?
I'm out.
I don't know if I believe you.
100%.
Yeah?
Because I've tried to talk Ray into doing it.
You try to talk him?
I tried to talk Ray into being like, let's just go. Let's just pack it all up and go. Things like that, like the big change stuff, I'm always down for.
What do you think?
It depends on what.
Such a better answer. Such a more honest answer. She's like, wait a minute, I just got my promotion.
Right. Like,
listen, if you were to ask Ray,
you have to retire tomorrow. I'm not vested in my 401k yet.
Right. Are we going to live on the land? Because I've seen your land living skills.
Yeah.
We're not going to survive. Yeah, I think it would depend on what.
It would depend on what?
It would just depend, period.
It's just like, there's a lot of...
there's so many depending.
Yes, there's a lot of...
So if it was like, let's leave we're going to leave the country. We're going to another people group, and God's called us Romania. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, right? So the gypsies in Croatia, whatever it is, right? And we're going to be full-time, on the ground missionaries. Could you do it?
Could I do it?
Yep. What would it take for you? Okay, let me ask you. Okay. What would it take for you to believe? What would John have to say for you to believe that he actually heard from the Lord and feels like this is what he's called to do?
If he came to me and said, we're going to Honduras,
okay,
I would believe that he heard from the Lord.
Really?
I mean, he's got Honduras tattooed on his leg.
He does. He's very passionate about our little trips.
Yeah.
But if he was like, hey, I feel like God's telling me we're supposed to go down and run this site, and we're supposed to invest our life, or the second half of our life, because you guys are getting into the second half of your life. I know it's crazy, right? I
She's
listen.
like, don't remind me.
I'm not happy with it either. Okay, I'm as upset about it as you are. Okay, I still think I'm 18 in my own mind. Okay, but I'm just saying you're entering into the second half.
So for me to believe him would be like there's actual steps that he starts to like put forward,
Okay,
like
to show that this
I've
is something
researched.
important.
I've
Yeah.
researched. This is where we're going to go live.
Yeah.
This is what life would look like. Not like, hey, I've got this idea. Now you go execute on it. That he's actually put time and thought behind it.
Yeah.
I think I might believe him.
So okay, I'm going to reword it for you and you tell me if I'm right. So you're saying like if if he took it seriously, like if he was stepping out seriously and really feeling like,
yeah,
I'm prepping my life, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But could you do it? I mean, dude, girl, you ain't going to see a pedicure
or an Amazon package.
You ain't going to see a hairstylist.
An Amazon package for a long time.
Could you do it? I mean, you've lived a pretty bougie life up until this point. Whether you like it or not, you have. Both of you have. You have lived very bougie lives. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all fairly middle class, normal families. But when you really look at it worldwide, we have lived very bougie lives.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's not even funny. Like,
yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Let's have a reveal conversation that's just awful, right?
Okay.
How much do you think you spent out to eat, like dining out in the last month?
You're kidding, right?
How much do you think you spent?
Oh, $2,500.
Yeah, that's crazy. Some people,
but it's more. It's like 6 of you guys.
But still,
it's just $2,500
is most people. That's like 2 mortgages for some people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm just saying. We live in America. Like it's not uncommon to eat to go a whole week and eat every meal almost out.
Listen, a couple months ago, I was just curious to see how much money I spend at Publix in like a month in like a 30-day time frame. Right. It was $1,900.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then all the stuff you're eating.
And that's because my kids wanted sushi on Wednesdays. Yeah. You know, the $5 sushi, but that nobody actually picks out the $5 sushi.
They all pick out the premium one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because God knows
who wants the $5
who wants the $5 sushi but me. Oh, God.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So could you does that not intimidate you at all? The idea of like completely changing your life? Like
it intimidates me a lot.
Like I'm going to leave this life that I know. And I'm going to live a completely separate life.
I think the part that really, outside of the obvious, right? Like leave my gym and
my yoga class. I saw
Pilates.
You were yoga. I'm sorry, your Pilates class.
Right.
I got my Pilates girlfriends I'm meeting with on Tuesday.
Right. My nail lady. Aside from, I have a very comfortable life. Yes.
Right.
And leaving my family, I think I worry about like, where's the money going to come from so that we could eat, like basic survival?
Yeah.
How are we going to live?
Yeah.
What am I going to do for work?
Yeah. Here's the crazy part. Here's the only plus, right? If you move to Honduras today, if you just cash out your 401k, you're a billionaire down there today. With whatever you have in there, you're a billionaire. That's the only side. You could make it the rest of your life down there. It's just changing the lifestyle that's so much. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like you could probably do it with whatever your savings is right now. You could make it last the entire run if you had to. But like it is a change.
Yeah. I would wrestle with that a lot, I think. But I don't know. I lived such a nonstop life the last couple of years that part of me would maybe welcome that. Like I could actually like live. Oh, so we went to Italy for 14 days where I actually like got to live.
Yes.
It was hard to come back.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How did you do? Okay, let me ask you a question. Side question real quick. How'd you do over there?
I was, what do you mean?
Well, I mean this. You're trapped with your husband for 14 days. Was there ever a point where you're like, I need some space. Can I get a coffee?
I almost booked a flight back home.
Let me tell you why I'm asking.
Our third day.
Can I tell you what I'm asking?
Yeah, tell me.
I'm going to tell you a secret why I'm asking. Okay. So we're at the fight nights the other night, and your husband's sitting there on the couch. Okay. And I ask him the exact same question. I go, hey, you were in Europe for how many days? And he's like, yeah, it was awesome. And I go, did you get tired of your wife in 14 days? That's a lot for just to be with one person. He goes, absolutely not. And then he says to me, what the frick's wrong with you? He's like, what's right? Are you so darkened by your life's disaster?
Did he say that?
That you can't see the positive in other people's, and now you just, it's so beautiful. I can't wait till he hears this because they beat me up about it, saying I had like darkness in my heart and blah, 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 blah.
He knows.
Yeah.
Look.
See, but that's the problem.
If you want to derail this podcast real quick, John is 100% the man that I needed, and he's healed a lot of stuff in this little cynical
cynical body.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so good. Okay, sidetracked. Over. What would it take for you? Like you said you're ready to go, but do you think you would really? Is it that you're ready to go because you would just like a change to the schedule in your life and what it is? Or do you really think, what would it take for you to believe it's from the Lord?
Kind of like what Jen said. I would have to have, like, Ray would have to show some sort of like an initiative because, we all know his initiative is very vague.
Yeah.
To say the least. So if I see him putting forth like, hey, listen, this is what happened and this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it, I would kind of go, oh, okay.
Really?
Let's do it. As long as it,
I don't know if I believe you.
I'm serious. Like, we've talked about it. I can't tell you how many times we've laid in bed and him and I were both like, let's just sell it all. Let's just sell it all and move to like Arkansas in the middle of nowhere.
Arkansas is not Honduras.
No, but there are some people in Arkansas probably need the Lord.
You know what I'm saying? But
Could you imagine these two as like church leaders?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I would never say in a million years. I would never say in a million years, let's go to like Romania or, like it would have to, I mean, I shouldn't say that because I don't really know anything about it, but it would have to be in a place where, I know my kids are safe. You know what I mean? It's like a place where I don't have to, worry about my children being like stolen, like in Honduras, where, Do
you think it's easier for you guys because you're not dealing with little kids on your end, Jen? Do you think it's easier for you?
Yeah, because I think, it would just be us two.
You do have to consider a whole different set of things.
Yeah, schools and stuff and things. I mean,
school. You be homeschooling, girl. Mm-hmm. We're on the mission field.
Here's the problem. I got homeschooled for one kid.
That is what I'm saying.
1 year.
Yes, very quickly. Now we're talking about homeschooling. You're like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know. I don't know if this is from the Lord.
No one's graduated.
But I always look at everything like it's not. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be forever. You know what I mean? If this is something that happened and all of a sudden, we went there and we were there for a year or two and we decided that this just wasn't for us. Yeah. Okay, well, then we go back home and start all over again.
Okay. So you're more, I think you're more like, it's your personality. I think your personality is more like, hey, I'm willing to try. Yeah. I'm willing to try anything.
It's whatever.
You have a pretty easy going, like, let's do this. Let's roll the dice.
It is what it is.
Let's gamble, whatever. I think there's a difference between that and here. Like, let me tell you why. So I asked the guys all the same question. I said, if your wife came to you and said she heard from the Lord and we're supposed to go to wherever, leave everything and go. It was funny because all the guys, I said, what would you do? They would say, we'd need more time to pray about. Mm-hmm. Like they needed confirmations and more prayer and they weren't sure.
Ray was not in that podcast.
He might not have been in that podcast.
There's no way.
He might not have been. But the rest of the guys in this panel that I asked were like, I said to one guy, I said, if she came to you and said that, he said something to the extent of like, no, I'd need another week or two to pray about it. And I said, why? Why wouldn't you just accept it? And he goes, well, just on her mixtapes of what she's listening to in music with as much Bad Bunny as she's consuming, I'm not sure I could trust her.
What's wrong with Bad Bunny?
So much. But it was just funny because it was funny that you two immediately went to almost trusting and they all went to like, no, I'd need to review it. That's an interesting. Did you predict that? Did you think they would do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Not Ray.
You think he would just go with it?
Oh, he would go with whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
John, I don't know.
Without a doubt. Ray would just be like, let's do it. Let's sell everything and we could live like kings wherever the hell you want to go.
No, that's not. You guys are on vacation. This is not a proposal for a vacation.
This is
not you living like kings. This is like you living sacrificially.
Listen,
you might have like really change your life.
Listen,
Sam didn't understand that.
Listen, every time that Ray goes to Honduras and he comes home, and I'm always like, oh, I really want to go, and he's like, you are not going there. And I'm like, why not? He's like, because you would sell everything, charter a plane, fill it with kids, come to the States, buy a house, put them all in there. He's like, it would not be.
Yeah,
a good situation.
I'm thinking we've thought strongly about the idea that once the site is done, we probably have 2 or 3 more years before the site's done and working. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe a year or 2 we could have some, but it won't be complete. We have to expand the site and stuff. But we thought a lot about Honduras and then potentially creating like long-term avenues to roll couples through as like house parents. Like, hey, you want to go spend 6 months? And, the church will support it, and you guys will be down there and be kind of our eyes on the ground and do education or do discipleship or do whatever kid care stuff for 6 months. Then we'll roll another couple through there. You know what I'm saying? It could be fun. But that's only 6 months. That's short term.
Yeah, that's really short term.
You know what I'm saying?
See, I would have a hard time.
That I was gonna say, I'm talking about like leaving your whole life.
Like though. I would have a hard time like leaving everything for 6 months. Like I would need probably more time than that.
Yeah, but do you think it'd be harder to do a short term or just completely gut your life and change it?
I mean, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm not going to do this like, oh well, I'm going to get myself prepared and then go down for 6 months. I feel like that would just be for me. It would be a lot because, like you said, we got a whole lot of stuff happening.
People do it.
Oh, for sure.
People do it.
And a lot of times, most people do it when their kids are little, like super little.
A lot of times.
When they're
the
a lot
guy
younger.
that founded this church, this is a crazy story. The guy that founded this church, this is back before Wachovia bought Barnett Bank.
Wow.
And Barnett Bank was huge, right? That was a huge bank merger back in the day, right? He was a VP, not of a branch, of the entire company. So he was the VP of Human Resources for the entire Barnett Bank company. Big. I'm talking like that's a huge job. I mean, that was back in the 90s. He was probably getting $250 a year, $350 a year. You know what I'm saying? In the 90s, he might have been rolling in it, and literally felt called by the Lord. Took his whole family, went out to seminary, spent 3 years finishing a divinity degree in seminary, living at basically at poverty level. Do you know what I'm saying? And then started a church, planted a church, and I think he was here at this church for probably 3 years. And he probably collected a salary of $35,000 a year for the first 3 years of the church. And then he went into ministry with another thing. But still, that is a wild change. I'm talking, that's a huge lifestyle change. You go from like, hey, we can do whatever we want. We have no worries. We have no financial restraints to $35,000 a month. And I got 4 kids.
Yeah.
What?
Listen, we're very used to, I mean, in our family, we're very used to highs and lows.
Yeah, that's true.
We're very used to highs and we're very used to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's times where, you know what I mean? Like it's a high market and there's
money coming in.
Money coming in like
everybody got to tighten their belt.
And then there's sometimes I'm like, who wants ramen for dinner? What's up now? You know what I mean? And that's just that's just the way that it goes. I mean, people, you know, I don't have.
Maybe that's prepared you mentally, but you've been on this more of like this nice, just you're on the roller coaster going up. You know what I'm saying? It has never come down.
It hasn't. No. Yeah. I grew up like very unstable.
Okay.
And so I think there's a lot of reasons why I am as focused as I am with my career. But just sitting here thinking about it, I think if it's a 6-month deal, I don't know that I come back if there's kids involved.
Yeah.
Like if you send me out to Honduras, and my job is to spend time and love on other kids.
You'd fall in love with them all.
I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other podcast.
It would become long-term. You think it would become long-term in your heart.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to come back.
I think there's a lot to be said about having financial stability versus having purpose and meaning in the world.
Girl.
And for me, you know, it's nice. I live a comfortable life. Thankfully, we've been able to live well below our means.
Yeah.
But I think I could give it all up if it meant having to leave behind a legacy that was more than just money or stuff or part of my work that
do you dream like, and I'm not, no judgment, because I'm not sure what I would do in your situation either. But like you've gone through some pretty big career promotions in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. That come with a pretty big bump, right? Financial payoff. Like, do you immediately start dreaming of like, oh, I need a new house. Oh, I need a new car. Or do you think more purposely? Do you go, what do I want to do with the rest of my life at some point?
Yeah.
That's a big, I mean, it's easy to say it, but it's different to live it.
But I think we live it, right? Like we both drive old cars that we've paid off. There is a conversation about let's go buy new cars. Yeah. I mean, we have a jet ski. Sure. We've got, you know, we like sneakers and stuff, but we still live in the starter house that we bought.
We like sneakers. That's when you know you're spending a lot on sneakers, when you're like, okay, top 2 things we spend money on, sneakers and
jet skis.
One jet ski. We live in the starter house that we bought in our 20s.
Yeah.
I've wanted to get a slightly bigger house, but I think we've talked each other out of that. We'll probably live in this house
forever.
Yeah. Forever.
They'll live in that house.
Yeah. I think
it's a great little house.
It is. It's a great house.
Cozy.
It's a safe, cute neighborhood. We're good.
Yeah.
Like build stuff onto it that they love.
Yeah, they got their little porch out back.
They're good.
I love it.
Yeah.
A little pond out back. Yeah. It's beautiful. But you know what I'm saying?
I don't dream about more things. Like, I don't dream about the mansion and, Windermere or anything.
I think that's unique because we live in a culture that it's almost like you're supposed to do that. If you get to where you are, you're supposed to want more and you're supposed to almost like live this expected life. Right?
Yeah.
And then it's like to hear you say, yeah, but I'm thinking more about purpose or meaning, you know what I'm saying? Or what I want to, leave, from a legacy standpoint. That's a different deal.
Yeah. So that's what keeps me up a lot, actually, is what's next, not career or things. It's like, what can we do with what we have?
Yeah. I like that. Let's finish this thing in Honduras. I'm going to send your butt down there. How's your Spanish?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
English is my second language.
It's better than your Spanish.
Is it truly your second language?
It really is.
It's really your second language?
For real.
For real?
For real. I was born in Colombia.
Okay.
Came to the U.S. when I was 5.
Okay.
My mom didn't speak any English, so I didn't learn English until kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
But I grew up in Miami.
Oh.
So I went to a predominantly Cuban Catholic school.
Yeah.
So yeah, English is my second language.
So her and John would be fine.
Yeah.
In Honduras.
I think you guys would.
But they'd be out.
But
they'd be out.
Yeah.
Out of what?
Bye, Jen and John. We'll see you in a couple.
You'll never see me again.
We'll see you on vacation every once
in
a while.
Send my stuff. Yeah.
I'm surprised at the level. I guess I'm not with you, but I think it's a little bit more of a personality thing and a like a life situation thing. But I am surprised that both of yours, like, it doesn't take much to convince you that your husbands have heard from the Lord and you're ready to go.
Listen, I've had you. I mean, you know how my life has gone, and it's there's things that have happened in time that I know that this sounds crazy, but that only God's had a hand in my life and in my marriage and in Ray's life. So, you know what? He comes to me and tells me, that's it. And I'm like, let's do it. Yeah. I got your back no matter what.
Wow.
I think it's the husbands in this denominator, right? Because,
honestly,
look at John.
I think it's an indictment. I think your guys' responses, I don't care how you cut it, when the guys listen to this, they're going to be like, oh, crap. Like, you guys answered fast. And you were on board with at least the idea. Like, you're ready to consider it. You're ready to.
Ray and I've had conversations where, like, if everything got taken away, like, say the time came, like, and something happened and everything got taken away.
Yeah.
Like, we've sat down as a family all together and we were like, if everything got taken away, you guys would be okay in a single wide mobile home in the middle of, like, nowhere. And my kids would be like, we're good.
Yeah.
Like, we rock it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Andrade's for life.
I think it's hard, right? Because I think everybody would. I think everybody can.
Yeah.
Right? But I think most people like the idea of losing everything and having to start over in any way or change their life from whatever's just kind of morphed into their lifestyle is very hard.
That's not hard for me.
Yeah.
I know that sounds really crazy, but it's stuff.
Yeah.
It's stuff. All of it's just stuff.
Do you think guys are more attached to their stuff than girls?
Oh, Ray's very attached to his stuff.
You think because listen, you live a very comfortable life and you like your little primpy stuff, your girly stuff, but John does too.
Yes, he does.
I mean,
but he grew up with nothing. I mean, double wide, literally. Yeah. Single mom that worked 4 jobs. John drove a beater. As long as John and I have been together, neither one of us have brought a brand new car.
Right.
Listen.
Yeah. So, yes, we like all this stuff, but I don't think that we're married to our stuff.
Listen, my house burned down. I'd grab the box of all the stuff from the kids' handprints and the stuff that they've made me that I've kept in this, like, box in my closet, and it has all of our, like, passports and birth certificates and all that stuff. I have a box full of
your
things
box
that
of
are important
stuff is more meaningful.
Is more meaningful stuff. Ray has like Ray would,
he would grab
Ray would grab he would grab
my
yeah he would grab very different stuff than I would.
John might grab some sneakers.
Yeah. That would be.
I think guys are like that a little bit,
and the motorcycle.
I think moms appreciate the stuff the kids made, and the guys are just like, whatever.
That's what I would grab. I wouldn't grab like my.
John's got a bag of Hot Wheels in the attic that he never let Xavier play with. So
he does.
Yes.
Hot Wheels.
Yeah. He never let Xavier play with them.
George, that's not even fair. Jiminy Christmas. Good night. Not even fair. This guy's got his Hot Wheels.
The struggle's real. You know
Johnny
what I mean?
boy. Oh my gosh. I think you're. I don't know if you guys are indicative of the whole. Maybe we have to ask some more women, but definitely different answers than the guys gave.
I can't think of one woman that I know that wouldn't be in the same boat that I would be.
Really?
Yeah.
That would be pretty on board with the idea of
the first thing I said, you just said that I would have to ask a few people, and I'm thinking about it. Colleen, she'd be like, bye. Yeah. Whatever her husband says, bye.
Yeah.
Zuli. Yeah. Zuli would be like, let's ride. We out.
You're probably right.
Raina would go.
Raina. Yeah. Raina would go.
She would.
No choice.
No choice. Woman, get in the car.
She wouldn't have to. She wouldn't even have. I mean, you know what I mean? It wouldn't even be. She would just go.
Wouldn't be the question.
I mean,
do you think that's more like? Do you think that's connected? Okay, I'm going to say this, and I don't want you to overthink it. Okay, but like when you think of like the whole dynamic of like how God created men and women, and somehow like how the family works and the unit works. Not that one's more valuable than the other, but there is like a dynamic of like, hey, you're my guy. You're kind of the head of this household. I'm going to honor you to some extent in this. That doesn't mean I don't make decisions or don't contribute. It's just that, hey, I do honor you. And do you think that's part of it? That's just a womanly thing? And that the guys have to be a little bit more like, let me think about it?
I mean, I don't know. I look at it like this. From my standpoint, listen, my husband doesn't make very many decisions in our family.
No.
He doesn't. He really doesn't. But when he does, he does. And I don't question it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Like when Ray looks at me and says, this is what we're doing. And he's like,
yeah,
this is what we're doing. And I go, okay. I
would agree with that.
I wouldn't even question it. Ray gives me the, I mean, not saying he gives it to me, but we have collectively said.
What's he giving to you?
We've collectively as a marriage, you know what I mean? Like I make majority of the choices. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way that it is. Yeah. I make the majority of the decisions in our household on like an everyday basis stuff when it comes to like the kids and stuff.
I think every guy needs a wife that orders their life.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I bounce stuff off of him.
Into chaos.
I think all wives bounce stuff off of their husbands, but at the end of the day,
I think that's the spiritual model. I think guys should be spiritual leaders, but the wives should be spiritual challenges, which means their presence should make the family as good as it can be.
But I think that for most women, when their husbands, especially in situations like how my marriage is, John and Jen's marriage, I think Jen makes most of the everyday in and out stuff. But if John were to come to her and say, this is what we're doing, she goes, okay. Yeah. My husband says, Sam, this is what we're doing. And I look at him and I go, are you sure? And he goes, yes. And I'm like, okay, let's go. We ride. Ride or dies. That's it.
What happened with the purchase of the new building? Did he do that or you do that?
He did that.
He did that? So he came to you and said, hey, we're going to do this.
He said, figure it out. He goes, this is what we're buying.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, no, do you think that this is the right time? And he looked at me and he goes, this is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him and I was like, are you sure? And I was like, this might not be the right, because I'm the,
yeah.
And then he finally said, that's it.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do. Figure it out. This is what we're doing.
Okay. You think the same way? Like, hey, it's not like you may make the majority of the day-to-day operational decisions for your family too, but if John brings something to the table passionately, you're more apt to be like, okay.
Yeah. Same what Sam said. If John brings something to the table and says, this is what I want to do, it's because he's given it a lot of thought and it's important to him.
Yeah.
And so I think we've got the kind of relationship where I feel like he gives me a lot of runway to make decisions, doesn't push back. He supported me through all of my career endeavors. But if he comes to the table with something, we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's it.
I got to tell you.
This is not what you expected it was going to be?
I would just tell you that
your
answers feel much more connected to I'm going to be hesitant here to say it. I don't want to super spiritualize it, but I would say your answers feel much more spiritual than theirs did.
I mean, I ask you from your previous endeavors and relationships in your life. Do you not feel the same way, that it would have been the same thing?
I don't know. I think that I would like to believe that that's the case. I think that that's probably true. I think that there would be a level of pushback and discussion. I think for a guy, think about this for a guy, right? The guy's biggest fear, right? Think about the husband's biggest fear is that we would come to you and like, I'm saying if this actually happened, I'm not saying like we making it up. I'm saying if we came to you and said, listen, I feel passionately through, whether it's through prayer or through counsel or open door or the Spirit or a combination of all of it, that the Lord's calling us to this. And I think one of the greatest fears for husbands in that position is that the response will be, I don't either trust you enough and you're not spiritual enough. Does that make sense? So you'd be judged. And I think a lot of guys don't even attempt to lead because they're afraid they'll be judged. Does that make sense? Like the response will be a doubt in their own character and their own, meaning that, look, we're not perfect and we're a bunch of broken people too. I mean, every person that God called, like when God calls friggin' Abraham to leave his leave his home and go out to this unknown place, he's not halfway through the journey until he's offering his wife up as a sister to cover up for, and then to offering her up to the sexual relationship with somebody else just to save his own ass.
But I think that has a lot to.
I shouldn't have said that, but I think that's true. That's loosely what the Bible says.
I think
you
a lot of
that. I think guys worry that we'll be seen as unspiritual.
I think that has a lot to do with your marriage.
Maybe
because I think that like I said, if you would have had the same conversation with Ray, I could stake my life that he would say this exact same thing to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that John would be the same way. Like John would say, listen, if I came to Jen and I said, this is what I wanted to do, that she's got my back. That's it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, the people that you have that are in our church that I know that could easily say vice versa the same way. Like,
I think it's harder. I think it's harder for you.
For me?
Yeah, because I think in her situation, she owns it. It's not a career climb. She hasn't climbed a ladder. She's owned it. And to sell it all, she can think to herself, I could build this back if I had to. You, to leave a career in mid-career, I think is a huge step. It would be like, oh, I'm burning some bridges here too, because if I walk away from this opportunity, you don't usually get back into the marketplace at the same opportunity.
But I think if I ever walked away from this, because I've given this thought, right? Yeah. Like, there's a lot, and we won't get into the politics of all of it, but healthcare it's tough, right?
Yeah.
And so I've thought about, like, I could walk back into something else.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
You would,
so,
but it wouldn't be this.
Yeah. But if I walk away from this, it's because I'm ready to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just think that's a huge thing. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that you answered so quickly is kind of insightful. Either you're completely underestimating the change and you're just crazy and you're just flippant, or you're thoughtful about it and you're like, no, I could do it, which says a lot about kind of where your mind is and your worldview is in compared to a very tough environment to live in, where it's like, we're on this climb. We're on this climb. We have to do this climb thing.
I think my childhood has a lot to do with it. I grew up with nothing. Nothing.
I think you're right.
I had nothing. Then we had some, and then we had nothing. And there was a lot of instability. And
yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with, there's a lot of denominators. There's a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Number one is, in a sense of her career and what she's built, you know what I mean, on her back. It's like,
But I go back to...
Sometimes it's easy to just be like, you know what?
I think a lot of what, people don't talk about, if we're going to talk about my career, it wasn't me. It was never me.
So you look at it that way too.
I've always looked at it because I wasn't supposed to be where I am. Yeah.
So you look at it like stewardship and a blessing. I think that changes it.
Yeah. I was never supposed to be here in this role. I'm not the traditional path to get to this place. if you know where I started my career in the company I'm with and where I am today,
Yeah, if you keep telling yourself this inner dialogue of look what I've scratched and clawed to get and I've accomplished,
it was never
me.
No,
it is harder to let that go if God calls you to let it go.
Yeah, because it was never mine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're gonna have to do a revamp on this one, and the guys are coming back in after they listen to this, and it's.
But you want to know what? Listen, I mean, I've been open 17 years, and anybody and everybody that says the same thing to me, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, this wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
This wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
This was, I mean, to be honest with you, Ray was the one who told me, he's like, open it up. He's like, we got this, and that's just when we started to come to church together as like a couple, and like, everything got kind of came together at the right time, and it was just. Like the building, I've tried to own a building for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've put contracts in on like 6 different buildings over the years, and nothing ever worked out. And Ray was like, "It's our time. Yeah. This is our time. God's got a plan for us." He's like, "I can feel it. This is what we're doing, and we're gonna pull the trigger because He's got our backs."
I love it,
and that's how it turns out. Same thing. It's just when you know that it's not in your hands, it's in His. It changes things.
Future missionaries, Sam and Jen today. Future missionaries.
So holy.
Watch out, people. It's going to happen. All right, as far as we can go for today. Love you, mean it. Peace.